in a car park trying to find a light for walking movies. I am Nick, and I'm looking pasty, but there's not much I can do about that. I'm here, well, I'm almost at the cinema to go and see Moana 2, which I don't know what I think about it. The first Moana is obviously really good. This one was a TV series which they decided to release on the big screen, like chopped together and stick out on the big screen. So, you know, Lin-Manuel Miranda's not back. The voice cast is back though. And yeah, that's kind of all I know. I've heard mixed things about it, so I'm going to go into it and just see how I like it, and then let you know, obviously, as I do. So I better get out of this car park. I mean, it's very quiet, so I'm standing here. It's a Sunday evening, but yeah, I'll go and see Moana 2 and let you know my thoughts after this. As you can see, I'm not walking to the movies. I'm already back from the movies. It was very dark and my light was far too bright to record. But I've just come back from seeing Moana 2, so I thought I'd talk about it. It's not Moana, that's for sure. Moana, I think, was in almost like a second Disney Renaissance of sorts. Because, you know, within a few years you had, you know, Frozen and Big Hero 6, and then Moana, and you just had like some really good films. And Moana was one of those films that, you know, I just remember the soundtrack being really good. I didn't see Moana when it first came out, actually. I saw it a few years later, but my wife and my daughter went to see it, and the soundtrack was played constantly for months afterwards. They loved that film. So I was very familiar with the songs. And when I did finally get around to watching Moana, I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a really good film. And, you know, I could understand the success of Moana. And Moana came out in 2016. 2016. 8 years ago. And there'd been kind of rumblings of a sequel around the time the film came out. In fact, let's go and have a look at how well it did at the box office. I thought it did quite well. 150 million budget, 687 million at the box office. I mean, that's huge. Certainly up there. Not Frozen levels, but close enough. So yeah, so it was weird that there hadn't been a sequel announced when they were kind of like announcing things like Frozen 2. And then back in 2020, they announced Moana, the series, for Disney Plus. And then we heard nothing else about it. It was just announced and then it was done. And until last year, when they came out and said, actually, Moana 2 is coming. And it's coming out next year. And that felt weird because normally, you know, animated films especially, they've got, you know, a fairly lengthy life cycle. You know, it's normally a good, if you're lucky, 2 to 3 years from a film starting animation to being shown at the cinemas. Some films take even longer. And here they announced Moana 2 was a year away. And that sounded a bit strange. And that's because they decided that the Moana TV series was instead going to be Moana 2. They're going to repurpose the film. And look, Disney have done this before, right? Most famously with Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 was going to be a direct-to-video sequel. I don't even think Pixar were involved. I want to say Disney were trying to get away with doing this or something. Anyway, they decided in the end that actually let's throw some more money into it and make it a big screen release. And obviously Toy Story 2 was a huge success. So Disney have got previous, is what I'm saying. But it still felt a bit odd. So anyway, trailer comes out, looks good. Not thinking too much of it. Then it finally comes out this weekend. Thanksgiving weekend in the States. And I start seeing some reviews. Now, I've always said, like, I don't read reviews until, or I try not to read reviews until I see films. But the headlines are quite damning, like, terrible film, you know, Disney's worst years, all this kind of stuff. I was like, wow, that's pretty big. So I've got to say, I kind of went into seeing Moana 2 with, like, a little bit of trepidation. I'd seen the trailers and thought it looked quite good, but then I was hearing this about it. But at the same time, I was seeing on social media people saying like they really loved it. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And I saw one thing because somebody I follow was quote tweeting it. So I saw what he said in response to the original tweet, and it seemed quite a petty response. So I went into this, with low expectations, but hearing mixed things. And in fact, just before I went to cinema, I just finished listening to a podcast a couple of my friends do, and they said they saw it and had great times. I was like, okay, I'm kind of on board. But it's not Moana. It's not Moana. And what I mean by that is, Moana was a special film. The songs were great, the characters are great, the story was great. And this film just doesn't have that. It's the best film The Rock's done this year, if that's anything to go by. But it's good, but not great. And I think for me, the problem I had with this film was the new characters they introduce. So, not, I mean, maybe it's spoilers, but very brief touch of the story. Moana, who obviously is just, I think it's set 2 or 3 years after the first film. So she's obviously had an adventure, been able to save her island, blah, blah, blah. She now wants to find other missing islands because she feels that there must be more than just her island. There must be other islands out there they haven't found yet. And she finds some evidence of another island, wants to go and find the island, and in doing so kind of puts together a crew to help her find and explore these other islands. And this is where it kind of starts to fall apart for me, because you get introduced to these characters, but there's no real... They're just thrown together. There's no kind of backstory to them. You're just supposed to accept that these are new characters and they're going to be following you along for the journey, and they're now main characters in this story. It felt like it felt very rushed, as if there were key parts of the story we weren't being told. So I didn't like that, and also I didn't like the new characters. I didn't think any of them were particularly likable. There was no reason for you to root for them or anything like that. So yeah, I thought that was a bit of a struggle. Maui is not in this film as much as you probably think. I mean, he was a big presence in the first film, but at times. But I would have thought that a sequel would kind of follow more on the Maui character, and actually, I'd say he might even be in it less. I'm not sure. Be interesting to see the screen time of him. But yeah, it's probably the best acting The Rock does nowadays, and it felt a shame that it was kind of condensed the way it was. I felt that way anyway. But look, I didn't think the story was as good as the first film, and more importantly, the songs I thought were pretty, across the board, pretty bad. I didn't enjoy any of them. And the thing is, like, sometimes when you first hear songs, like, I just talked about Wicked a few weeks ago. The first time I saw Wicked, because I wasn't familiar with the songs, I was struggling a little bit with them. Like, why are they so lauded? They sounded okay. But then I watched it a second time, I'm like, okay, well, I've heard these songs the first time, now I'm hearing it again a second time and kind of understanding a bit more, feeling a bit more of them. But the songs in the first Moana, like from the first time I heard them, I was like, these are good songs. And then this film, like, no. There was only one song. I'm just trying to find the title of it now. I think it was called Nuku Okega. Um, and that was the only song I liked. And I'm not even sure if that's the right one. I know it wasn't in English. So that's right. I think it was actually. I think it was that one. But or it was it. Oh, it could be Manavavu. Either way, it was the main song that was in English. Out of all the songs, I was like, that's the song I like. And the rock song in this one called "Can I Get a Chi Who," which is his catchphrase, which you see in the trailer, is just bad. It's like, well, everyone likes "You're Welcome," so let's do something similar to that, but with this new catchphrase instead. No, it's just bad. Full stop. I didn't think the story was that good. I didn't think the characters were that good. The story was weird, and they did this other thing where, what are the coconutty people? What are the coconutty people? The Kakamora. The Kakamora. I felt like in this film they tried to like make them a bit like the Minions more than they did in the first film. That's definitely what they're kind of going for. This group of like, all very similar but unique characters. And I wasn't particularly keen on that. But that said, I think the last 20, 30 minutes of the film were actually like pretty good. And so that raised up my enjoyment of the film quite substantially. Until that point, I was like, I thought I was going to fall asleep at times. I just found it really boring and I didn't like the pacing at all. It's only an hour, 40 minutes, but it felt a lot longer. But the last 20, 30 minutes, I did enjoy. I did think it was pretty good. Again, the soundtrack is nothing like nowhere near as good as the first. The story, nowhere near as good as the first. The voice cast, the returning people are great. The new people, it's not that I don't like their voices, it's the characters I'm not happy with, and it's not down to the voice acting. Everyone did a good job in that regard. It's just I didn't like how the characters were kind of drawn out. This has got 3 directors. Like animated films sometimes have more than one director. I completely understand that. I feel with this film, there's more directors because it was based on episodes of a TV series that they kind of just all merged together. It'd be interesting to see how, if this film was what the TV series was supposed to be, which I think was supposed to be like 10 episodes, and just condensed down into an hour and 40 minutes, or if they'd taken like a few episodes and stuck them together and that's what the film is. Either way, I came out of Moana 2 thinking it was disappointing, but I'd still like to see more in this world. I would love to see a third Moana film, but I would like them to do it properly. Like, start off with it being a film and then, make it more than it is. Lin-Manuel Miranda didn't do the music for this film, wasn't going to be doing the music because he was busy. I think it was because it was a TV project initially. He didn't want to get involved in it. I think had it been announced as a sequel, he probably would have come back. Look, I'm sure the new people that did the music for this film tried. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it. Like, I think they had a very high bar to clear, and they didn't clear it for me. That's it. I'm sure they're very talented, but they had strong competition. So look, what would I give this? It's a 6 out of 10 for me. It's good, not great, and lots of people are going to go and see this, especially in the run up to Christmas. I believe it's a big hit already. Huge box office opening. What's it done? $221 million in the US and Canada alone. A worldwide total of 386 million. That's in like 3 or 4 days. Insane. So huge box office. I thought Wicked did amazing last week. Now this has come out and absolutely trounced it. But it's a sequel to a very beloved film, so I get that. But I mean, my enjoyment, this versus Wicked as a comparison, nowhere near. Nowhere near. Nothing at all. So look, should you go and see this film? If you love the first Moana film, if you go in knowing it's not going to be up to the same standard, absolutely. If you have heard it's absolutely terrible, worst thing Disney have done in years, That's not true, but it is a disappointment compared to the first one, in my opinion. So it's a good film, not a great film, and I'd love to see a third one. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions of Moana 2. And yeah, until next time, just remember that Flynn lives.